You are worn out from the endless cost of measuring your worth by productivity. True rest never asks for proof. Moses, the leader who led weary people toward freedom and new rhythms of sacred pause. But sometimes he felt the ache growing inside. For every silent moment, a sense of unease waiting beneath the surface. Rest felt distant, something allowed only as a reward after another task was finished. He felt unsure if he could truly be accepted when he wasn't doing, producing, holding everything together. His own heart questioned if he could ever really stop, or if rest would let everything unravel around him. He said it as plainly as anyone ever has. This truth is written plainly in Genesis. And God blessed the seventh day and sanctified it, because that in it he had rested from all his work which God created and made. And he said, My presence shall go with thee, and I will give thee rest. These are words shaped for the empty spaces inside tired souls. Yet still, the quieter moments sometimes brought worry instead of calm. What if stopping meant losing momentum, being left behind, or letting others down? The fear crept in. If his value came from leading and doing, who would he be without that? That anxiety echoed louder in the lonely midnight hours. The drive to prove himself, to be needed, tugged at him, always pushing him beyond his own limits. He worried rest would only show his weakness, not his belovedness. The cost of running from rest was heavy. Exhaustion, isolation, sometimes resentment toward the very people he wanted to serve. This truth is written plainly in Exodus. Remember the Sabbath day to keep it holy. Yet the promise offered was not to earn rest, but to be given it. God called him not only to lead, but to be led, into stillness, into renewal. He put it this way, There remaineth therefore a rest to the people of God. But even hearing those words, the old pattern tugged harder. Everyone else seemed to handle life just fine without pause. He watched others press on, so he started ignoring his tiredness again, afraid rest would mean falling behind. The idea of stepping back felt risky, almost like surrendering control. What if he let people down? What if the world moved on without him? The body said stop, but the pressure said go, and the tension only grew. Each night, his heart grew heavier, more brittle, until he reached that sharp edge only exhaustion brings. There, alone with his restlessness, he could not pray it away or outwork it. The very thing he believed kept him valuable, the constant doing, had hollowed out his soul. All his trying left him emptier than when he began. In that raw, weary place, he realized that running from rest had never brought him closer to what he wanted. Now, with nothing left to burn, everything depended on what might break through next. He wasn't expecting silence to offer a gift, but it did. In the hush, space opened for words he'd always outrun. This shift didn't arrive as a thunderbolt or an easy answer. It began softly, with an invitation to listen instead of striving. He saw the cost, not just to his own spirit, but to his relationships. All the ways exhaustion makes love smaller and gratitude dimmer. There he stopped fighting the quiet, if only for a moment, and the world didn't end. Instead, a new kind of hunger awoke. Maybe rest was not a luxury, but something holy, woven deeper than effort. This truth is written plainly in Exodus. 6 days thou shalt labor and do all thy work. He breathed a little easier. Everything felt less impossible, less urgent. This truth pressed gently but surely. If God gives rest, it must matter more than my proving. He put it in words no striving could erase. Let us labor therefore to enter into that rest, lest any man fall after the same example of unbelief. From Hebrews 16:11. Stillness starts as surrender, but he began to recognize it as belonging. In resting, he discovered God's heart moves toward him, not away from him, in his emptiness. No performance required, just presence, just being. He saw that true leadership is born in humility, in letting himself be led first. In pause, peace revealed itself as a presence, not an achievement. That surprising welcome in the quiet said what doing never could. God delights in giving rest, not just demanding it. He learned that when he stopped running, he found a love that waits, unhurried, unchanged. That's who God shows himself to be, again and again, faithful in the very place where striving ends. That was the shift. He could almost feel the weight coming off his shoulders. Not all at once, just a hint, a whisper of freedom. He began to believe the unsettling possibility that rest isn't something earned or bartered for. Was it really that simple? He couldn't quite say yet. He put it this way: "For whatsoever is born of God overcometh the world, and this is the victory that overcometh the world, even our faith." That promise laid a foundation, but he needed to see if it would hold in real life. The days didn't get quieter, not immediately. He still woke with a list of things undone, and unease through the bones. Yet he kept returning to that stillness, however faltering, almost like learning to breathe again. Something subtle had shifted, a deep undertow, moving him towards something richer than work alone could yield. When chaos pressed, he resisted the old urge to arm himself with effort. Instead, he learned to sit, sometimes empty, sometimes aching, yet oddly at peace. This truth is written plainly in Exodus. But the seventh day is the Sabbath of the Lord thy God. In it thou shalt not do any work. That was the evidence. He was no longer rowing upstream on his own. A new current was carrying him, gentle but certain, no matter the noise. This didn't mean it all came easy. He faced the same demands, felt the same temptations to prove himself. Not everyone understood. Some saw this quietness as laziness, a lessening of ambition. He struggled with their judgments, sometimes questioned his own motives. Could he really trust that God's delight didn't depend on his hustle? There were moments he almost went back, tempted to overfunction, to fill the ache with noise. But each time, something caught him, a memory of peace, a taste of rest. It cost him pride. It cost him approval. In letting go, he lost his sense of control, yet gained something impossible to fake. He watched as the frantic edge dulled, his presence with others deepened, laughter coming a little easier. Doubt didn't leave for good, but grace seemed more real. He noticed his prayers softening, his hope staying put, when results didn't change. He realized this way of living would always feel a little bit risky. Yet, he kept choosing it, sometimes just for today, sometimes only for the next 5 minutes. There was a steadiness gently taking root, even in the middle of uncertainty. Slowly, Something precious collected in those quiet moments, a deeper trust, a quiet knowing. He found himself receiving rest, sometimes without asking, just because grace met him there. Life didn't stop being complicated, but his posture shifted. He stood less defensive, more open, less grasping, more content. The people close to him noticed the difference in small ways, longer hugs, slower words, fewer arguments. Over time, the grip of striving lessened. He still cared, still hoped, but not with clenched fists. There was room now for surprise, for wonder, for laughter. He saw joy slip quietly into ordinary days, a gift, freely given, not another prize to win. In his own words, and this is the confidence that we have in him, that, if we ask anything according to his will, he heareth us. The story, it seemed, was never about his effort. Real rest was always about a love that sees, welcomes, and holds, even when all he can do is show up and breathe. Real rest comes when we embrace a love that welcomes us as we are. This love invites us to let go of striving. If this resonated with you, subscribe to the channel and comment below. What does resting in God's love look like for you?